Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I save 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Recently, I've been going through my entire stack, showing you guys piece by piece, and coming up with a subtotal of actually how much silver I have. Today, we're going to be going through my world coin collection, and you'll see firsthand really why I've been putting it off. It doesn't account for a whole lot of silver, but all the different purities make it very challenging to do the math. So, let's find out what I have. Before we go any farther, I have to give a shout out to Don't Ask. He was the first to comment on my last video. Congratulations for getting there first, Don't Ask. And thank you so much for your support. You've been a supporter of my channel from the beginning, and I do really appreciate it. I'm excited to see you in the comments every time. Make sure that y'all go down and find Don't Ask in the comment section and go subscribe to his channel. Help him get to 1,000 subscribers. And while you're down in the comments pushing all the buttons, I have one more button for you to push. Hit that like button and possibly subscribe to me if you haven't subscribed yet. Alright, so now that I've cleared out some space, let's start looking at some coins. I do have this binder that I put together when I started going through all my world coins, but as you can see, I can't really keep it all as organized anymore. Here on the first page, I have all of my British pennies and half pennies. It looks like the easiest way to do this would be to take the pages out of the binders, but we aren't really going to spend much time on copper coins today anyway, so this is really just me trying to figure out what views would be the best for you. Anyway, take a quick look at the collection of pennies and half pennies I've been able to put together. I'm actually pretty proud of these. These are really, really cool to me. Great Britain, like most countries, actually used a combination of different amounts of silver throughout time. So in the earlier coinage, it was all sterling silver, 92.5%. And later, after 1920, it was shifted to 50% silver. So you'll see I have a mix here, and I don't have an exact count of how many are each. So actually later, before I end this video though, I'm going to be researching every single coin and making sure I get an accurate subtotal for all of it. So here you can see I'm pointing out some sixpence. There are my shillings. And as we go through this, you'll see some are newer, some are older, some are the sterling silver, some are 50% silver, and some of these coins are actually copper nickel. I'll definitely be going through and getting an accurate count before I give you a total of how much silver all of this actually is. And I do have a little bit of a mix of coins here. Some of these are British coins, so I'll just pull out all the other ones. Here I have another shilling. This is actually King George III from 1820. What I find very interesting about the British coinage is actually how similar it is to the United States coinage. This shilling, while it is 92.5%, it is 6.02 grams, which makes it contain 5.56 grams of silver. An American silver quarter contains 5.62 grams of silver. So the amount of silver is very, very close. In addition to that, in the time, you'd be able to trade 20 of these shillings for a British sovereign or 20 American silver quarters for a $5 coin. Both of those are gold coins and are also very, very similar in weight. So moving on, we have here a Canadian collection. You can see all the pennies of the copper coins. Silver in Canada was also sterling silver, but this changed in 1920. They changed to 80% silver and then eventually to 50% silver in the 1960s. So again, I have a whole mix of purities here, and I'll definitely be getting a final count before the end of the video. And I have here on my desk an example of each. This is an 80% Canadian dime. Then I have a much older one from 1880 that is sterling silver. And then, of course, jump ahead about 100 years, and we've got some quarters that are 50% silver. Next up, we do have some coins from the Latin Monetary Union. And I do gotta say, this is probably my favorite topic when it comes to world coins. France, Switzerland, Belgium, and Italy all came together to create the same denomination of the same coins. Right here we have a half franc, 1 franc, and 2 franc type set. And this is actually a mix between the countries because the countries all came together and decided they were going to make the same size coins with the same alloy of silver, denominated the same thing. So what ended up happening is between the 1860s and World War I in 1910-ish, all these countries were making the same coins, and about 30 different countries jumped on to this standard of sized coins. Really, this was like the world's first world currency. However, before that, the biggest player in currency throughout the world was actually Mexico. Well, correction, it'd be the Spanish colonies through the Mexican mint. So I can't have any really substantial world coin collection without some Mexican silver. This one that I'm trying to get out of the plastic right here, be careful about this because this is actually only 10% silver. So it's a 16-gram coin. That means it only contains 1.6 grams of silver. They made these for about 10 years, and some of them do look really nice, so be careful. Don't get mixed up spending too much money on a coin like this. And now that I've gone through my organized book, that just leaves a whole bunch of loose coins that I haven't even really gone through yet. So, what a better time than now. Here I have some Venezuela Bolivar, and these actually fit the standard of the Latin Monetary Union. So here I'll show you where it's actually stamped on the coin that it's 10 grams of 83.5% pure. And then I have some this is Bolivars, 1 Bolivar example. So now these are 5 grams of the same purity, and it just continues down the line. These are perfectly fungible. We'll get to the half Bolivar being 2.5 grams. And I actually do have a quarter Bolivar that would be 1.25 grams of this 83.5% silver. A fact I find interesting about this Latin Monetary Union silver, this 83.5%, is that if you were to make 7.5 units, so 7.5 francs or bolivars, then you're actually making a full troy ounce. It's almost like the American $1.40 rule, where 35 cents face value, a dime and a quarter, makes a quarter ounce. In this 83.5% silver example, the equivalent size of a dime and a quarter, or the half unit and a 1 unit, actually makes a fifth of an ounce. So now we have 0.2 ounces or any sort of fraction in between. Here I have a full bag of this 83.5% silver, mostly Venezuelan Bolivar, but this one I'm holding right here is actually a Belgium 1 franc piece. And because there is that math of 7.5 units to a full troy ounce, I believe these could actually be very easy to stack and very easy to get your hands on because they are so common. Like I said, a lot of countries towards the end of this contract have jumped on, and they all made so much silver that I feel like this 83.5% silver is very, very abundant. I think it would be fun to go down the list of all the different countries that subscribed to this purity and size and just collect an entire set of this 83.5% silver. Another interesting fact is that they did make this crown size, which is 25 grams, but this is actually 90%. So they raised the purity in order to include more silver in these large coins, kind of like how in America we had larger silver dollars than an accumulation of all of the smaller coinage. We just did it with more weight in the bigger coin, where this is a higher purity in the bigger coin. But moving on, I do actually have a little bit of a typeset of these large coins. This one is from Mexico. This is a 5 peso, and it's actually a very recognizable coin. It's one of the largest silver coins, being 30 grams of 90% silver. Then up next, we do have a Canadian dollar. As you can see, this one's significantly smaller. Again, this is only 80% silver, so I believe it only contains about 0.6 troy ounces of silver. Then last but not least, I do have a British crown. This is the only British crown I have. This one is sterling silver. And you can just see how large this coin actually is. I think it's fun to put together a whole set of all these different countries having similarly sized coins and kind of all stacking up together. Let's see, I have one more loose coin, and this is actually a commemorative Mexican coin from the Olympics in 1968. This is a 72% silver coin, which was a standard for Mexico for quite a long time. Last but not least, I do have this bag of a whole bunch of world coins that I have gone through, and I know which ones are silver, but there is some copper nickel examples in this as well. So we'll just open it up and start digging right through it. Looks like this first one is another 50% 3 pence from Great Britain. We have here one from the Dominican Republic, that's copper nickel. Then we've got, Netherlands, they actually made 64% silver. Then we've got this cool one from Finland, which is actually 35% silver. And you can see how all these odd purities making it very confusing very quickly. We've got some coins from the Philippines. These are all actually 75% silver. These ones a lot of people like to collect, though. They're actually made by the United States for the Philippines. So these ones are an interesting one to have in my collection, and they almost count as American coins. Between the eagle and the woman walking, which is actually circulating the same time as our Walking Liberty half dollars, these definitely do look like American coins. Interestingly enough, they actually made this 20 centavos. It would have been like a 20-cent coin in the United States, which the United States did experiment with. And this is a Panama coin that's actually 40% silver. That was also made by America. So it kind of makes sense I have it mixed in with all these American but not American coins right here. What do you think? If it was minted by America, is it an American coin? Let me know in the comments. Next up, we have some German silver. These are all commemorative Olympic coins. These are 62.5% silver, and they were made to commemorate the Olympics, I believe happening in Germany. There are 7 different designs, and I was able to pick up one of each. I'll go ahead and put these aside, and then we'll get to my American coins that I said didn't quite fit the mold for the same math of the junk silver videos. In 1873, they set American silver so that 25 grams of silver would be equivalent to $1. Before that, there was actually 2 different numbers that made up the dollar at 2 different time periods. So I do have some coins that were from those earlier time periods. I'm going to include them in this video here. As you can see, this one is from 1854. And this time it was that 12.4 grams was the half dollar instead of 12.5. Here I have a quarter from 1853 to that same weight standard. But then even before that, I have here a half dime from 1839. And in this time period, $1 was actually 26.73 grams. It looks like this Panama 90% coin fell into this mix here. But that will do it for all of my world coins. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get you guys a total today, but I will actually work on it today and get you a total for the beginning of tomorrow's video. Tomorrow, I'm going to be adding up all of the extra bits and collections and series that I have just laying around that will be the final count of my silver. So tune in tomorrow to make sure you get to see the final episode of this series of finally getting to count all of the silver that I have on hand. I did all this so that I could eventually get to a portfolio ratio to understand how much silver I have compared to the amount of gold that I have. So that'll all be revealed in tomorrow's video. Of course, thank you so much for watching. And remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.